her way into the hall. "I suppose you are getting a bit long in the tooth, aren't you? Shall I fetch you an ear trumpet and a shawl for your aching bones?" "Impudence does not suit you," Amelia responded. "Now hush your nonsense and tell me again about the gentleman your mamma has invited." Obediently, Harriet recited the names of each of the 5 gentlemen who had been invited for the week-long house party, followed by a brief description of their properties and interests. Amelia had made it clear to Mrs. Smithson that the gentlemen chosen for the entertainment should be carefully selected from among the most likely to find Harriet and her dowry attractive. And Amelia had spent the past week schooling her charge on the best ways of making herself agreeable to them. Naturally, she'd make a choice among them based on her own preferences in the end. But at the start of the party, she'd need to present herself in as positive a light as possible. "Do you really think one of them will find me enticing enough to marry, Amelia?" Harriet asked, her worry over her prospects overshadowing her giddiness for a moment. "What if none of them likes me? What if they think I'm pudding-faced, or worse, gauche?" "They won't think you're pudding-faced," Amelia chided. "You are a perfectly lovely girl, and this party will go off without a hitch, and if there are hitches, we will simply deal with them as they happen." Before Harriet could respond, Mrs. Smithson entered the hallway just ahead of them and hurried forward. "Harriet, there you are," the reed-thin matron said, the ostrich feather in her turban bobbing up and down. "All of our guests are gathered in the drawing-room, waiting for your arrival. I told you not to be late." She glared at Amelia, clearly blaming their tardiness on her daughter's companion. Ever since Amelia's arrival in the Smithson household, the lady of the house had made it clear through her words and actions that though she needed Amelia's help to launch her daughter in society, she resented the gentility and good breeding that made her a valuable companion to Harriet. Amelia could hardly blame the woman. After all, in order to mark her own superiority, Mrs. Smithson needed to keep a social distance between herself and her employees, but the constant derision from her charge's mother was becoming tiresome. Not wishing to engage the other woman in a confrontation that would simply make Harriet more nervous, Amelia squeezed her charge's hand and allowed Mrs. Smithson to lead her away. Keeping a few paces behind, as her employer had instructed her to do when they were in public, Amelia could hear the chattering of the Smithsons' guests within the drawing-room as they neared the gathering. To her satisfaction, she noticed that Harriet was walking with her head held high, rather than the slope-shouldered posture she'd adopted before in an effort to diminish her height. Pleased at that little demonstration of her influence over the girl, Amelia took up a position just outside the drawing-room door, waiting for Harriet to make her grand entrance before she slipped into the room and took up a position on the periphery. As Mrs. Smithson and Harriet stepped into the chamber, Amelia heard the conversation within the room quiet for a moment as they doubtless took in the appearance of their host's daughter. She winced as she heard Mrs. Smithson's braying laughter over the other voices in the room. Money didn't make for gentility, she reflected, not for the first time since she'd taken a position with the Smithsons' household. Shaking her head, she started toward the side door of the drawing-room and began to pull on her gloves in preparation for her own entrance when she heard Mr. Smithson's study door open just down the hall. And before she could hurry away, she was faced with her employer and another gentleman whose back was toward her. She was in the process of slinking away when, to her frustration, Mr. Smithson called out to her. "Miss Snowe, excellent. Wait for just a moment, if you please. I was just about to take Fortescue to the drawing-room before dinner," the man barked. Though upon her first meeting with him Amelia had cringed at her employer's rough manner, she had since come to realize that he was possessed of a kinder heart than his lady wife. He'd made his fortune in cotton mills in the north of England, and as soon as he was able he'd moved his wife and daughter as far away from industry as possible to this little manor house on the South Downs. He himself was not possessed of any sort of gentility or breeding, but he was determined to see to it that his daughter married a man with both, which was why he'd instructed his wife to hire a lady's companion for Harriet. Amelia had come to hold the man in some esteem, but at the moment she wished him at the devil. Not only would he make her later entering the drawing-room than she'd wished, a circumstance she was quite certain Mrs. Smithson would note and scold her for, he was also accompanied by a gentleman.